and welcome to this month's poetry workshop. This one is perfect for you if maybe you're new to poetry or you're just happy to take things at a slightly slower pace. And we're going to have a look at a poem and I'll set you off on a little activity that you can have fun doing. So, these sessions are funded by Positive Images Festival, so I have to say thank you to them. And if you enjoy them, it would be amazing if at the end of this video you could press on what I think is probably my face and you can subscribe to the channel. That would be awesome. Thank you to everybody who supports these sessions, who sends lovely messages, who sends me their poems and who watches them, because that's just brilliant. So, hello and welcome. We're going to start with one of my favourite poems of all time by one of my favourite poets. This is called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and it's by Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an American poet. He was active in the sort of 20th century, beginning and middle of 20th century, and he wrote a lot about nature. So a lot of his poems look at sort of ordinary situations with people in them and how they're responding or relating to nature. This one is one where the narrator of the poem is riding a horse and they're heading into the town, but before they do, they stop at woods, and guess what? It's a snowy evening. So, stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the frozen woods and lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So, on the surface, we know it's about a man, potentially could be a woman, who is riding their horse and stops at the woods. This poem, to me, always, and to a lot of people, I'm not inventing this, has hidden depth to it. It's especially in that last stanza, and a stanza is basically like a verse, it's just a word for verse in poetry. With the woods are lovely, dark and deep. And you don't know how to feel about that, whether it's a nice place or whether it's something maybe a bit more ominous. And then he decides he's leaving them because he's got miles to go before he sleeps. And in this case, sleep could really be he's going to bed in the evening, or it could be something a bit more permanent. It could be like questioning how long of his life he's got left. And he's got lots and lots of things to do before he goes, he realises. So that's why he carries on with his horse. And it's got that beat through it, the sound almost of the horse, especially at the end. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. You can imagine being on the horse and riding to that beat. So, if you were taking Robert Frost's poem as an inspiration, can you think of an everyday situation, maybe involving nature, because, you know, we spent a bit of time in lockdown this year, and some of us have been out for walks and things, or sat in our gardens, or looked out of our windows and noticed the birds and the trees and things, maybe more than we did previously. So can you think of an everyday situation that you've, watched or been part of lately? Because for Robert Frost at that time, riding a horse, that would have been a pretty everyday situation. To us, now, probably not so much. The other thing that he does really well here is he uses his five senses. So we've got our taste, our smell, our sight, our hearing, and the one that I've missed out, smell, did I say? So yeah, the five senses. And you know, we hear the sound of the horse. He talks to us about the harness bells a shake. He tells us that it's cold because, well, we know it must be cold. We've got a frozen lake and it's snowing. So we know how it feels. We can see what he sees and we get a really lovely sense of that. So think if you can encompass in your poem the things that you in that moment are seeing and smelling and hearing and tasting, because that really helps to create a very vivid picture for your reader. Your challenge then is think about Robert Frost's poem, think about nature and something that you've been in, and use your 5 senses to have a go at a poem for yourself. It doesn't have to rhyme, it can do. It doesn't have to be a long poem, but it can be. It can be however you want it to be. You just take that page and that space is yours. And that is the beautiful thing about poetry, is that you can't do anything wrong because there's no wrong answers. It's whatever you want to make it, whatever you want to craft. Have fun. Let me know how you get on with the activities, and I will see you next time.